Today I'm preparing some recipes for a winter picnic tomorrow, and I wanted to share with you these 3 dip recipes. The first one is a white bean dip that I found on Food Network, and the original creator is Jada De Laurentiis, and I have all my ingredients here, so let me show you what you will be needing. First, you need 2 cloves of garlic, 1 can of cannellini beans, this one's 15.5 ounces, 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, and it doesn't call for it in the recipe, but I'll be using some of the lemon zest to add a lot more flavor. I like to add fresh lemon zest when I make homemade hummus, so I think that'll be really nice. 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil, 1/4 cup of fresh parsley, and I picked this from my garden this morning. And then I'm also going to be adding some fresh oregano, which I picked from my garden. I think that's going to add a lovely flavor as well. Salt and pepper. And then to garnish, I'm going to sprinkle with dried oregano and also some paprika for color. For all these recipes, please be sure to check out the links below. I have a mini chopper here. It has a 3-cup capacity, and it's from Cuisinart. And I've got the 1 can of cannellini beans drained and rinsed, and then the zest from the whole lemon. And now I just need to add my remaining ingredients. So 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. This is a large lemon, and I figured 1/4 of it would be 2 tablespoons, so I'll just squeeze that in there. Next, I'm going to add the herbs. I have 1 tablespoon of the fresh oregano, which is not a part of the normal recipe, but I'm going to add it anyway. I coarsely chopped the garlic so that it would puree in the dip. I didn't want a big piece of garlic floating around. 1/4 cup loosely packed parsley leaves. Some black pepper. I'll wait to salt until after I've tasted it because the beans have a little bit of salt in them. And then 1/3 cup of extra virgin olive oil. Now I'll just put the lid on and pulse it to combine everything. Here's the dip. I'm going to give it a taste for seasoning. It definitely needs salt, and I'm going to add another wedge of lemon. Alright, that last 1/4 of the lemon, so in total I used half of a large lemon, really did the trick, and I ended up adding a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So now I'm ready to plate this, and my favorite thing about this so far is you can really taste the olive oil in it, the fruitiness of the oil, so definitely use a nice tasting extra virgin olive oil. Alright, I have my dip dished out. This is a 2-cup Pyrex dish, if you were curious about the volume of the recipe. And I would normally put this in a pretty bowl if I were serving it in my home, but because we are going on a picnic, I'm using a lidded container. And I'm just going to decorate the dish, and I'm going to sprinkle it with some paprika, which will mainly add color. And I don't want it to be clumped up in one spot, so I'm going to hold the container kind of high and sprinkle. There's a little bit of paprika and another grind of black pepper and some dried oregano. And then to add a touch of color, I'm going to be using some pretty parsley leaves on top. Everybody talks about eating with your eyes first, to the point that it's probably cliche for me to mention it now. But if you're trying to make something special for someone, it definitely helps to add a little bit of flair. And this is a birthday picnic, so it's always nice to just go the extra mile and make things look really pretty, especially when you have fresh ingredients from your own garden like I do, thankfully. Alright, so this is dip number 1. For my next recipe, I'm going to be making olive and dried fig tapenade, and this comes from the website Food 52. And for this recipe, you're going to need 4 ounces of dried figs, and I chopped them up. This was about 9 or 10 figs. Half a cup of pitted Kalamata olives. Half a cup of green olives with pimento. 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. 1 teaspoon of rosemary, and this also came from my garden. 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. Salt and pepper to taste. And then alongside it, I'm going to be serving some goat cheese, and this came from the Marin French Cheese Company. I recently went there in one of my vlog videos. I added the figs to the bowl of the mini food processor. Now I'm going to add the 2 kinds of olives. And I'm not worried about chopping up the rosemary ahead of time because the mini food processor will do the work for me. I'll add the 2 tablespoons of olive oil. One tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. Olives are really salty, so I'm going to hold off salting this until after I've pureed it, but I will add some pepper. I suppose you can make this as coarse or as fine as you want. I want a spreadable consistency to go with the goat cheese. I think adding the figs at the bottom is a good idea because they do make the food processor work a bit harder, and having them at the bottom gets them closer to the blade. Alright, I think that consistency looks good to me. I'm just going to check for seasoning. Actually, it doesn't need salt, but it tastes slightly bland to me, so I think I'm going to go freestyle on it and add a few other components. I just added about 2 teaspoons more of fresh rosemary, the zest of 1 small orange, and the juice of 1/4 of that small orange, just to add some more flavor punch. It's definitely salty enough. It just tastes like a bunch of pureed olives and figs. It doesn't really taste like much of anything. Okay, the freestyling still continues because it still tasted rather bland, but the orange tastes awesome in it. So what I did was to add more creaminess and also a touch of a bitter note. I added 2 tablespoons of chopped walnuts, a teaspoon of honey just to balance out the volume of vinegar I added, and then a clove of garlic. So this is starting to turn out to be sort of an olive and fig chutney. Let's give it a mix. Man, that is awesome now. I can't wait to taste it tomorrow after it sat in the fridge all night. That's going to be awesome spread on a piece of the pain de mie bread that I got from Model Bakery and some goat cheese. I can't wait to try this one again. I topped the tapenade off with a few pieces of walnut, and dip number 2 out of 3 is finished. For the last recipe, I'm making a crab salad, and this recipe comes from the website At a Pinch. And in the recipe it calls for fresh crab, but I'm just using canned crab. I feel like there would be some snobbery against using canned crab, but I like to keep it in my pantry if I'm using it for a recipe where I'm blending it into something such as a frittata or in this salad, so I'm not going to be snobby about it. I am adding 1/4 cup of a red bell pepper, which the recipe doesn't call for, 1 stalk of celery. I forgot to buy a scallion, so I'm just going to use 1 chopped up shallot. You need a teaspoon of Old Bay seasoning, a dash of Worcestershire sauce, a half a teaspoon of hot sauce. I'm using Frank's Red Hot Sauce, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, 2 teaspoons of lemon zest, or a quarter cup of mayonnaise, and salt and pepper. So I'm going to drain the crab and combine everything. I think I'm going to add a couple hard-boiled eggs to it. It's not a part of the original recipe, but I tend to like those in salads such as this. I know it sounds silly for something to bring me so much joy as an egg cutter, but I really love this thing. I got it from IKEA, but it just makes the perfect little egg cubes. The crab salad's all ready, and I wanted to share with you a trick my mom taught me when it comes to tidying up a bowl. So you take a paper towel and you just put your finger inside of the towel and kind of drape it with it, and then you just go around the edge of the bowl and clean it up, because she always taught me to never take anything to anybody's house that has a messy edge like that, and it just creates a more tidy appearance. And I'm going to garnish the salad with some parsley leaves, and we are all set. And then I'll be showing you the different veggies and crackers and bread I'm going to be using as things to dip. I've got quite a few different crudités I've chosen to use with the dips. So celery, which is classic, cucumber, a couple small pears, which will especially be great with the goat cheese, and I'm also going to bring a Marin French Cheese Company Petite Supreme Brie. Brie and pear is a classic combo. Some endive or endive. This is a very crisp vegetable, and the leaves are boat shaped, so they're perfect for scooping. I'm going to slice up some radishes, which will add a little bit of peppery notes. I went to Model Bakery and I got some pain de mie, and this is kind of a soft sandwich bread consistency, which is going to be perfect for scooping up these softer dips. And I'm not going to take all of these, but I'm just going to take a couple. I got some Rustic Bakery flatbreads, sourdough flatbread from the Marin French Cheese Company, and one for each of us. I've got my dips back here, and then instead of taking a dessert, I just picked up a couple different kinds of small chocolates. I thought that would be a nice way to end the meal, and they're very portable. And then finally, of course, I have wine. And I think it can be really hard to choose a wine when you have so many different flavors going on. I can see how that can be intimidating. However, under those circumstances, I try to step back and look at the big picture of what I'm trying to achieve with the wine. And what I want is something light, refreshing, crisp, something that can cut through the richness of these dips and pair well with lemon and citrus, because these all have some sort of citrus element in it. And what I've chosen is a 2017 Trefethen Sauvignon Blanc, which is local for me. And I've chosen this one because I remember drinking it in the tasting room, and it's light. It has fun green apple and tropical notes like passion fruit. And irrespective of whether you get the note or not, what this wine is trying to achieve is it has some acidity, and that acidity is going to be palate cleansing when it comes to something like the bean dip, the brie, or the goat cheese. So that was my goal in this wine, and I hope this advice helps you not feel so nervous or intimidated when it comes to picking a wine for a meal that has so many different flavors going on.